The State Commission on Water Resource Management met at West Hawaii Civic Center on Wednesday. There was only one issue, whether to grant the request of Koloko-Honokahau National Park to designate the Keahau Aquifer as a managed groundwater area. The council chambers were packed. An early testifier was Mayor Billy Kanoy.
And when you see this come, get this whiff of paternalism. I feel like the county being paternalistically patted on the head to say, you guys don't know what you're doing. We gotta come in, help you guys, because you don't know how. And that's when feeling like, wow, because we all get kuleana.
For Koloko-Honokahau Park, Superintendent Tammy Duchesne, hydrologist Paula Curtillo from the Denver office, and Oahu-based consultant Jonathan Scheuer explained their position.
Our petition is not anti-development. Our petition does not seek to stop groundwater pumping. Our petition is pro-planning. Our petition asks you to manage the location of wells so that economic growth can continue with a robust margin of safety for water-dependent public trust resources in the park.
The commissioners had several questions.
Our Senator Schatz offered to really sponsor a mediation process between the national park and the county, and we understand one of the sticking points is that the national park wasn't willing to have a 90-day delay requesting the commission while that mediation process went on.
What we said in our testimony, what Superintendent Duchesne said in our testimony, to address the issue of will there be harm in delay. Now, I don't know how you define irreparable harm or whether that's a particular legal standard, but will there be harm in delay? What we've suggested to you is that we believe you have all the information necessary to continue the process today, but if you choose not to continue the process, but instead keep us in this investigative period, defer the approval of any new wells, our pump installation permits.
Commissioner Milton Pavao, former head of Hawaii County Department of Water Supply, had some pointed questions.
There's really no hard evidence or hard scientific facts about how the high level relates to the basal. Underground flow. There's some theories that it just acts normal. There's some theories that it enters the ocean far offshore. There's no conclusive evidence that it does affect your ponds.
I guess I don't know how to say it any other way, that it will divert water and reduce groundwater discharge in the park. I respectfully disagree that there's no hard scientific data that indicates that there is communication between the high level and the basal.
Could there be something to be worked out with the commission staff to ensure that the basal wells adhere to the concerns of the national park?
I think that you're starting to ask questions that might pertain to the powers and duties of your commission under the code, and that this would be a robust conversation in executive session with your Attorney General.
Could be.
I would just like to add that we did approach the commission staff about designating just the basal aquifer. I think 2 or 3 years ago we had a conversation about that, and they told us at the time it was not possible because that's not an official management unit.
And to answer your questions about the health of the ponds, our mandate is that we preserve and protect for future generations. So we do not want harm to happen. So our concern is it is not okay for us to wait to see harm and then try to mitigate it or mediate it or to respond or try to clean it up. If there is harm to our park resources from when we inherited them or when it was designated as a park, we could be sued and we have failed in our duty. So we have to be vigilant about proactive management to prevent harm, not to wait for it and then decide that it's a good time to pursue the ability to look at groundwater displacement of wells.
I understand being proactive, but if you take proactive to that extent, nothing would get done.
The Hawaii County Department of Water Supply currently has 12 wells in the Keahau Aquifer, serving around 28,000 people.
Repeated requests for further discussions on that issue have gone unanswered by the NPS. Should the NPS be sincere in its commitment to finding a common ground on this issue, the Department of Water Supply of the County of Hawaii and the Water Board remain committed. We have made offers to sit down with them to work these out. I submit to this commission, and I disagree with the National Park Service in regard to any type of mediation. The National Park Service said they didn't want you to hover over us while any negotiations were going on. They didn't want this decision to be hinged upon the outcome of any discussions. We have just the opposite position. We think you play an important role in mediating this event and this situation, which is of critical importance. We would like this commission to withhold the decision of this petition pending negotiations between us and the National Park Service to reach an agreement on what measures we can take from the county side to allay their concerns regarding the impacts to this park. We make that offer to you and to the National Park Service. In good faith, we believe that with you involved in that process, the parties will cooperate and come to the table to seriously negotiate a settlement of this issue without having to make a very difficult decision that affects and is, in my opinion, divisive of this community.
Ralph Morita from the State Department of Accounting and General Services expressed concern that designation would negatively impact the timing and the cost of the proposed new Kona State Judiciary Building.
We believe the basis for the petition is unfounded and that it will passage or designation of the aquifer will unnecessarily delay the start of our project and adversely impact the funding for the project. We have submitted copies of 2 DAGS opposition letters, one dated October 27th, the other one dated November the 24th, both 2014, and we stand by the issues that we cite in those letters.
Department of Hawaiian Homelands wants to ensure that it will have enough water to fulfill their mission.
To be clear, as it relates to this aquifer, DHHL wanted to be sure that you knew what our needs were, and so on November 17th, 2014, the Hawaiian Homes Commission authorized me to formally request a water reservation of 3.398 million gallons per day in the Keauhou ASA from the seaworm to adequately reserve water for current and foreseeable development and uses of Hawaiian homelands in the Keauhou aquifer. We recently submitted that to your staff, and I believe they've received that. While we do not take any position with regard to designation, DHHL does offer the following recommendation for the Commission's consideration. The first matter for us is that when it comes to reservation, we have to have the confidence that that reservation is protected for DHHL's uses from now into the future. But because we simply cannot move as fast as private developers in developing our lands, and our time horizon is forever, as you can understand, being in a similar situation of protecting a public trust resource.
There were a number of other testifiers coming down on both sides of the issue. Lifetime Native Hawaiian resident and legal descendant of the area, Reggie Lee, testified on behalf of himself and his mother, Auntie Elizabeth Lee.
We're not in favor of this petition, and basically, because we're lineal descendant to these areas, and when all this came up, we weren't even consult with or discussed about our mana'o, about this area. We've lived here all our life. We've submitted viewpoints on our situation here, and like the DHHL that they came up and said their piece about having to reserve these water rights. I believe in them, but I also want to say that please respect the lineal descendants' wishes here, and whatever your votes are or how this hearing comes out, it's going to impact our way of living here.
The matter even attracted a national organization, the National Parks Conservation Association. San Francisco attorney Karen Nardi testified.
The goal is to set up an equitable system where all parties can be heard and where all stakeholders can have their views represented. And this has happened, of course, in other areas of Hawaii. My understanding is that all of Oahu, with one exception, is designated. Molokai stepped forward voluntarily to designate their island. And of course, recently Maui got a designation.
In the end, the Commission deferred the matter until May 2015. During that time, Commission staff must gather additional information, and Hawaii County Department of Water Supply must provide an infrastructure improvement plan for the Keauhou Aquifer. The Commission has instructed Koloko-Honokahau National Park, which requested designation, to provide information about traditional and customary Native practices within the park. The Commission also asked the National Park to enter into mediation with Hawaii County to resolve issues of concern.
Not a threat, no more harm. It's not here today. Oh, but it might happen in some